gives expert service. Carco International is the answer. Leave it to the pros to keep you on the road. Carco International, located at 2721 Midland Boulevard in Fort Smith.
ESPN Arkansas weather.
More active weather today with the potential for strong to severe storms, hail, gusty winds, and the potential for a few tornadoes today. Temperatures this afternoon will be in the upper 70s to low 80s. We also may see the potential for really heavy rain today. Showers and storms continuing tonight, overnight lows in the 60s. I'm Sally Russell with your forecast on.
This is ESPN 95.3.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Broadcasting live from the Bud Light Studio.
I love Arkansas! I love everything here! Give me that thing here! Woo!
On your favorite Arkansas sports talk station.
Why did that happen in Fayetteville, Arkansas?
Dixon Street. It'll get you.
Streaming live from
Hit that line.
.com.
You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is halftime.
Man, that ball got out of here in a hurry. You know, anything travels that far, I'd have a damn stewardess on it, don't you think?
With Phil Elson.
You do a fantastic job on the radio. There's no one else in this league I'd rather listen to, so keep up the good work.
And Tye Richardson.
Tye, I love the way you talk, buddy.
Raise that bright red flag to the skies. 423 miles away, the Emerald City awaits. The Hogs are going to Omaha.
But hold on, it's almost halftime.
You know, it just hit me. I don't even know why on that call that Tye Richardson has on our open for halftime. Why I called Omaha the Emerald City, because it's not the Emerald City. That what would be the Emerald City? It would be Seattle. I think if you're going to point to one city in the United States or maybe in the world that I can think of that you would say is like the Emerald City, it would be Seattle. But it's got, Omaha has a mystic feel to it for college baseball fans. And probably for other people too, but certainly when it comes to the world of college baseball, we always think of Omaha as the end-all be-all for a very, very good reason. I mean, going over 60 years now, that's been the one place that you know a national champion is going to be crowned. So, I mean, it does have a little bit of that mystical Wizard of Oz feel to it. If you're going to mention the Emerald City, Tye, you do know the Wizard of Oz, right? You have seen the Wizard of Oz. This is something that has passed through the generations. This isn't something of the generational gap, correct?
I don't have to push the button when it comes to Wizard of Oz. I've seen the movie, I've seen the play, I've seen something else along with that. So, yes, I don't have to press the generational gap button for that, Phil.
Okay. All right, good. But Omaha's really not an Emerald City. I mean, I picture the Emerald City being in a lot of trees around, maybe some rivers, maybe some mountains. And it's interesting, too, because there's a city that I'm in right now as I do halftime once again from Birmingham near the SEC tournament. We are just down the road from the Hoover Met. They call Birmingham the Magic City, and I'm really not even sure why they refer to Birmingham as the Magic City. I'd heard that Birmingham has been referred to as the Pittsburgh of the South. You know, that's one of the reasons, I guess, that I feel a kinship to this city, because this...
You're not offended by that?
I'm not offended by that. The reason that they call it the Pittsburgh of the South is that this is where the steelmaking industry for the South was located for a long, long time.
Okay.
In fact, the reason that the AA baseball team in Birmingham is named the Barons is that it's short for Steel Barons. So, I mean, there is that connection, I think, between the two cities. I don't know really why you call it the Magic City, though. I'm sure that there's some magic that happens here. Maybe there'll be some magic that takes place throughout this week in the SEC tournament. The magic has already started, by the way, with Texas A&M and Florida right now playing into the... Well, I got the broadcast up on my laptop here, so I could watch that while I'm paying half attention to the show that we're doing today. But they don't have the score up. It looks like Florida may have just taken the lead. 5-4, Florida leading in the bottom of the 8th inning, first of 4 games in a very long day, which is going to get nice and toasty at the Hoover Met. The baseball weather guys, I think, are going to be smiling upon us, which you can't always say this time of the year in Alabama. Even recently, there have been some pretty nasty storms that came through, but we're not. There's no rain in the forecast all week long, so hope that might mean we won't have any games that go past midnight, because there's usually, at least like one day that's completely screwed up because of rain. I mean, I remember playing a game until 1:30 in the morning against Florida in 2015, but I don't think that's going to happen. It's just going to be nice and hot. It'll be an Alabama summer week, although summer hasn't officially started yet. So there'll be a lot of magic on the field, and Arkansas finds out. I guess they'll find out in about 6 hours or so who they will play in their opener of the SEC tournament tomorrow. They'll get either an Ole Miss team that they dropped 2 out of 3 to in one of the more disappointing series of the season for Arkansas. And honestly, there really weren't many disappointing weekends, but that was one of them. Or the Missouri Tigers, who Arkansas swept in a very close 3-game series at Baum-Walker Stadium to open the season. But the Hogs are in great position. I think that no matter what happens this week, they look like they've got the resume to be a national seed. Kendall Rogers from D1 Baseball told us that as much yesterday, and we've seen many of the other projections by the poll services, if you want to call them that, or the baseball writers and other Baseball America, stuff like that. They all seem to be in agreement. I mean, Arkansas right now is one of the top 8 teams in the country going into the college baseball postseason, and there really wouldn't be anything that happens this postseason to make them think otherwise. And that's because you've had a great regular season. You've had a tremendous regular season that includes 40 wins, 20 in conference, the quickest season ever to 40 victories, the second year ever to 20 conference wins, and interestingly enough, doing that without anybody that was recognized on the first team of the SEC postseason awards, which really, there's a couple of positions that maybe you could make a case that Arkansas had the first team guy, but somebody else ended up with more votes from the coaches. But I think that's something to get into later on in the show, and we'll also look into the Isaiah Campbell quote unquote snub. But it's a well-rounded team. There were some holes to plug coming into the season, most notably first base, without knowledge of anybody who was going to be playing at first base. You also knew that there were 2 open slots on the infield along with first base. Second base and third base would be those positions. A big vacancy at the catching position. Also, with an open spot in the outfield after Eric Cole leaves after his junior season. There were a lot of question marks going in, and that's not even talking about the starting rotation on the weekend, which for me, if you're going to point to anything that is a question mark for Arkansas baseball, if that's even the right term to use, it would be the weekend rotation. But just on the positions alone, there were a lot of question marks. And it seems to me, Ty, most of those questions have been answered positively. The one thing going into the season that you knew you had, outside of any of the players who wear the uniform or any of the pitchers who throw, you knew you had a good coaching staff. And really, you knew you had the right guy at the top of the pyramid when it comes to Dave Van Horn. And you almost felt like Arkansas was getting votes in the national polls because of who the coach is.
Out of respect, not necessarily because of who they had coming back, but due to the respect that the Arkansas baseball program itself has garnered the last few seasons under Dave Van Horn.
Yeah, and also the brand of what Arkansas baseball means to those who vote in the polls. But that brand also is marketed. It's marketed out there by Dave himself to the people who really matter when it comes to how you have a good regular season, what you do in the postseason. It's all about the players. Like we hear some people say, it's all about the Jimmies and the Joes. I mean, first before you get a really great program, you got to have the right person at the top. You got to have the right head coach making the decisions. And from there, as long as they know how and where to find the right players and the best talent available to them, and in the SEC, you're going to have probably the best talent in the country in the 3 sports that we do most of our talking about, football, basketball, and baseball. They'll be looking to the SEC because of the facilities, because of the exposure that you're going to get on all the cable networks and all the broadcast networks, and the fact of all these great professional athletes come from the SEC, that you know that there's a lineage that takes you straight from high school to the pros or the majors if you have that sort of success in there. So you've got to get the right players in. Dave Van Horn has obviously been doing this for a long, long time now. If you're a program that's made this will be the 16th regional at Arkansas in 17 years, then you obviously have you've been recruiting really well. But there's been an uptick in recruiting for Arkansas baseball even in the last 2 or 3 years. And you see that really playing itself out, that it looks like maybe the second or third best recruiting class in the country next year. Of course, that's before anything happens with the Major League Draft. For Arkansas football, I mean, what's your one hope to dig yourself out of the cellar? It's the recruiting class that Chad Morris has brought in, the freshman incoming class, the influx, it seems, of talent at quarterback, and maybe trying to rebuild the offensive line through JUCO. There's more of an uptick in recruiting in football. There's no doubt about that. And it's been interesting to see how Eric Musselman has kind of opened up geographically the recruiting map for Arkansas basketball in a really short period of time to parts of the country that you don't really ever think you had players coming from very often. So you kind of have the reload mentality in baseball. I think for reloading each year now, at least that's the way it looks. You're trying to get the train still on the tracks and motoring as fast as it can in football. And in basketball, the train is loading up at the station right now, but you kind of you like how the train looks, I think would be the best way to put it.
Yeah, and so the data that we've collected so far from Chad Morris in about a year and a half since he's gotten here is he accumulated the second best recruiting class, depending on the network you looked at, that Arkansas has ever had in football. With Eric Musselman, as you mentioned, you have a couple transfers come in, Connor Vanover, Isaiah Moss, and Gentel Silla. And you don't know a lot about Gentel Silla and Connor Vanover. Those are going to be – Vanover looks more like a project. Silla, we'll see what he does at this level. Isaiah Moss was pretty highly coveted, looked like at Kansas. Kansas was getting a good look at him and others. And so you're wondering, after that point, if he can continue to do that, not just get transfers, but get these 4 and 5 stars that he's going after. Get a guy like a Moses Moody. Get a guy like a 5-star like Kyrie Walker down there in Arizona, who, by the way, if you watch his highlight videos, kid can absolutely play. So I'm curious to see if he ends up a Razorback. And then with Dave Van Horn, you mentioned the recruiting classes he's had at Arkansas, and potentially this next year having the best one he's ever had. His last couple recruiting classes, last year he had the 13th best one. 2018 he had the 9th. 2017 he had the 3rd. This is all according to Perfect Game, by the way. And 2016 was the 12th. And he's obviously been here a lot longer than any of these other coaches, so he's got a leg up. But the question I wanted to pose to our audience today is, it's actually kind of a two-part question. I think most people are going to lead towards one side. And the first question is, between football, basketball, and baseball, the head coaches, who's the best recruiter right now? And I think most people are going to lean towards Dave Van Horn, and he has the track record, he has that. But maybe down the line, and you're hoping down the line, Phil, that these three guys will not only compete against others, like in their respective sport, but also in a sense, like try and get the best players on campus against each other. You know what I mean? Like that's not the end goal. Is to make Dave Van Horn's end goal is not to make sure he gets a higher recruiting class than Eric Musselman and Chad Morris, but just kind of like a jokingly fun game. And the other question I have is, this the best 3 head coaches? And again, your tracker, since you're a little older than me, maybe you could touch in this a little more, but I know you haven't been in the state as long. Are these the 3 best recruiting head coaches that you've ever had on campus? And I sometimes, Phil, I think that the fact that I'm only 24 years old and I can't dig as deep as a lot of our audience members, that kind of hurts me when it goes to this argument. And I think also social media plays into it, that we see all this stuff and we see them out and about. But I think it's an interesting debate to be had, is if these 3 guys right now are the best recruiters of the 3 at the same time, not individually, but at the exact same time, that you've had them all at the same time that you've ever had on campus.
Well, they all have, they have different things to offer as a coach and as a program to each of these athletes that they're, marketing themselves to in high school. And all right, so let's look at each of these aside. Dave Van Horn, Chad Morris, Eric Musselman. With Dave Van Horn, you have a track record, a real track record of not just success as a college head coach everywhere you've been with all of the runs to Omaha, but you also have a track record of being able to show, look at all these players that have come through my programs and have had established major league careers, or just been able to point to however many players he's had that have gone in the draft. That's a strong recruiting tool right there. I mean, it's not like you're looking at anybody else in the SEC and saying, well, you can't get to the majors, or you can't be drafted out of Missouri, or you can't be drafted out of Ole Miss or any of the other schools. But I mean, when you're looking at 17 years and all these major leaguers, that's a strong tool to be able to point to, plus the success on the field and the atmosphere around the games and everything that goes along with being a Razorback baseball player at Arkansas. So, I mean, that's baseball. In basketball, I mean, Eric Musselman has shown in 5 years that he can dominate over a league, but now it's a step up. Now it's. I mean, I still don't like using the term rebuild for the basketball team, because I don't feel like that the program was in distress. It just, I guess the feeling was that it had plateaued, but you have the ability to show as a coach now that, yes, I've come from the NBA. I know what it's like there. I can, Connor Vanover pointed on our show the other day to.
It's like
all
the
the
first thing he
contacts
pointed out.
That's the first thing he pointed out, all the contacts that he has, and he can sort of, help you work your game towards the NBA scout's eye while you're while he's at Arkansas, he can point to me. Look at the players you're bringing in, players that are going to get immediate playing time right now as graduate transfers, and Jontel Silla and Isaiah Moss and maybe Connor Vanover gets the waiver. But I feel like his situation is a little bit different, being an Arkansas kid, being from Little Rock. The two graduate transfers are coming in saying, well, I got playing time right now. And whatever the scouts can look at, fine. But I think they're looking at playing time in the SEC, top two conferences in the country, and that's what he's marketing to right there. And then however you're talking to the high school players, that he's trying to get, and saying, look, we're in the gradual stages of building something that could be very, very special. We're already at a pretty decent level. We're in a really tough league. This is where you want to be, because you'll be the building blocks of what this program can be. So that's basketball. Chad Morris has a whole other thing. And I mean, of course, you're recruiting so many more players when you're talking about a football team. But now it's a rebuild. Now you're talking about the rebuild, and it's immediate playing time for freshmen that to get the chance now to come in and compete for playing time, where at a lot of other programs in the SEC, you wouldn't really think you'd get on the field quickly as a freshman. Maybe not the sort of players that have come to Arkansas the last couple of years. And he does have the track record of I mean, we always point to Deshaun Watson, and the steps that he took, getting him to campus, and what happened with Watson at Clemson, and now what he's become with the Houston Texans. I'm not sure if there are many other players you can point to other than that. So I feel like, Dave already has his thing going. It's a factory right now. Muss and Morris is still in wait-and-see approaches. One recruiting class for Chad Morris is not going to build the program. How many times do we have a recruiting expert on and they'll say, you need 2 or 3 of these classes? Yeah. One basketball recruiting class can kind of get it going. Football's a whole other thing. And I feel like baseball at Arkansas is separated from the other two because it's been a thing for a while, and it's at a higher level than it's been before, and it's pointing upward.
Clay Henry, the publisher of Hogs Illustrated, just texted me, and he brings up a pretty good point. Frank Broyles, Eddie Sutton, Norm DeBryan in the 70s. I'd say that's a pretty solid trio of coaches.
See, it helps to have perspective.
It
doesn't
helps,
it?
Man.
It helps.
And he's got a lot more than I do when it comes to Arkansas sports, because he's covered them for quite some time, and his dad before him, his late father Orville Henry. But that's a list right there. But maybe, and it's one of those things. You know how like my generation gets attached to what we're seeing. Now, I'm not in that case with like LeBron James, the Michael Jordan argument, and I always tell you that I was born in the wrong generation, because a lot of times I like talking about older generations of sports. But I think at this point in time, like, Dave's earned being caught up in his moment. Like, he's had so many moments here in Arkansas that it's okay to get caught up in what he's accomplished. Now, he knows that he's going to have to continue to get guys in here and continue to do what it does to achieve his ultimate goal, which is to win a national championship at Arkansas. And I think Chad Morris and Eric Musselman realize the exact same thing. We've heard Eric Musselman talk about this all the time. Players, players, players. He said that on the Hog Pod with Bo. And then with Chad Morris, he's talked about not the exact same terminology, but he said something similar. It's like, we got to get guys in here that want to play for Arkansas and want to do things his way and are talented and stuff. And so with that being said, I think that, again, you've mentioned Dave's got the accomplishments. It's not going to say it's easier, but it kind of is easier when you have that all these College World Series and stuff in your background. In Arkansas, it has, I mean, Baum's like a top 3 stadium. You can't say the same about Bud or Donald W. Like, Bud's probably top 20, top 15. Donald W. is probably more in the top 30s-ish.
Yeah, and baseball recruiting, and we always throw this into the conversation. I mean, there's such differences between college baseball and the other 2 major sports that we talk about, which are fully funded through scholarships and everything. I mean, there's the 11.7 thing with college baseball, but there's also the draft. And the NBA draft and the NFL draft do not affect incoming recruiting classes ever. I mean, maybe they do in basketball a little bit, in some players' decisions to maybe go overseas for a year, or in how now we're seeing players that are moving up a year, the reclassifying like we hear. But baseball, it's high school players coming out of high school into the major league draft have been a thing for a century now. I mean, ever since the draft was instituted in the early '60s. So. That's why you can look at it. It's why, Dave will always say when you talk about the incoming recruit class, we've got a great class coming in, and then it's always the caveat, if we can get him to campus. And I've seen recruiting classes totally decimated by the Major League Baseball draft.
And you know how you always hear from the Arkansas football program, man, if we could just get kids to campus. It's not the same idea when you say that. When you say get kids to campus on the Arkansas baseball program, that's mean they're not going to the NMLB draft. When it comes to Arkansas, it's about kind of the naysayers saying, oh, you don't want to go to Fayetteville. That it's farmland, blah, blah, blah. These kids don't know about what Fayetteville is actually like, one of the best college towns in America, and they just think Arkansas is a bunch of hicks and whatever. And so it's kind of a different battles that Chad Morris and Dave Van Horn, and I guess Eric Musselman's in that category too, is fighting, even though Arkansas has more recent, I'd say they have more recent basketball history, but it's not true because of football in 2010, 2011. But it's just they're fighting different battles, but they're still having to fight battles nevertheless.
Texas A&M rallied from behind to take the lead, but the Gators have the tying run at the plate, and the SEC tournament already getting a crazy first game going on. Hey, Dominic Fletcher joining us in about 10, 12 minutes or so. We've got plenty coming up on halftime, including Nikki Chavanel from Rivals.com. Before we go to the break, though, I need to talk to anybody out there dealing with divorce or child custody issues. If you're dealing with criminal matters involving DHS or anything with your kids with DHS, get a hold of Kevin Hickey Law Partners. They're here to represent you throughout the entire process, and they've dealt with all of it. False accusations, angry spouses, ugly custody battles, you name it, they've seen it. So if you're facing anything like this, call Kevin Hickey Law Partners, experienced, caring individuals that are ready to step in and aggressively represent your interests. In the River Valley, it's 479-434-2414, or Northwest Arkansas, call Kevin Hickey Law at 479-802-6560, or just go to kevinhickeylaw.com. We'll come back on halftime on ESPN Arkansas and hitthatline.com.
No hidden agendas on this program. You're listening to Halftime. It's Southern Tire Mart Free Brake Inspection Tuesday. This is the Morning Rush.
Isaiah Campbell, I'm sure you would have liked the award, but I doubt that that's really where his focus is at. This is more of a fan thing, I think, in most cases. What went into the minds of those who were picking these players? And how did they go through the list and go through the stats and go through the seasons, go through the performances, and say, you know what, Isaiah Campbell, you're not even the 5th best starting pitcher in this league.
Don't miss the Morning Rush. Weekdays from 6 till 9. Only on ESPN 95.3.
Locally owned Lumber One can handle all of your building needs. They've built their business on having great relationships with everybody from contractors and builders to the everyday build-it-yourself. Lumber One is a full-line door shop to handle all of your door, window, and trim needs. And along with lumber, roofing and drywall products, attic wall and floor insulation is available. Lumber One also does blueprint takeoff with access to design services with estimates available. So go where the pros go. Lumber One, located on Industrial Park Road in Van Buren.
They worked through any problems that came up and got me driving a very nice car. I found the people at Hertz Car Sales to be very helpful and easy to work with. This is what buying a car should be like.
Why not make the short drive to 2810 Midland Boulevard or give them a call at 783-1722. You can also check them out on the web at buyfromhertz.com. Trade-ins are always welcome. Stop by Hertz Car Sales today. You'll be glad you did.
Hi, I'm Kelly Smith, owner of Dixie Digital Imaging, the Xerox authorized agency and dealer in the River Valley. The 29 new models of Xerox business printers and copiers represent a quantum leap forward in office technology. They are designed for the way we work today, safely and securely. They're powered by Xerox Connect Key technology. They're innovative and affordable with both black and white and color devices available. For more information, give Dixie Digital a call at 783-6600 or visit us at dixiedigital.com. Dixie Digital Imaging, bringing Xerox document innovations to the River Valley.
ProCare Family Health with locations in Bonanza, Chaffee Crossing, and at their new location in Poto. 1103 Dewey Avenue in Poto is your primary care clinic, acting as a principal point of health care to patients of all ages. Their emphasis is to educate patients about their health and how to maintain it throughout their lifetime. They are devoted to the best research models so that their patients can get the highest standard of care. ProCare Family Health can assist with weight loss, testosterone injections, diabetes, and cortisone shots. ProCare Family Health, dedicating to meeting your health care needs.
What are people saying about Links at Chaffee Crossing?
It was by far the best barbecue I've had, along with great sides.
Great place to sit down and watch the game on the TV while you're having your favorite drink or beer.
Come and enjoy Links at Chaffee Crossing. Relaxed atmosphere, great barbecue, burgers, and more. Plenty of TVs to watch the game room with a pool table along with a full bar and lots of cold beer. Good food and good times are all at Links at Chaffee Crossing, off Custer Boulevard in Fort Smith.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hinton. You asked, and we listened. New financing options available now at Champ Hinton Enterprises. Can you believe payments starting at $150 a month? 5-minute credit approvals and 0 down with trade-ins. Come find out for yourself why we have been serving families in the River Valley for over 38 years with over 35,000 cars, trucks, and SUVs sold. We treat you like family. Champ Hinton Enterprises, I-540 at the Arcoma exit or champhinton.com.
Arkansas Fuel Injection in Fort Smith has been providing quality work for all new and rebuilt diesel pumps and injectors for over 25 years. They are a certified diesel shop with a team of quality technicians that